Sorry, I got invested watching our child on the monitor. We're waiting to see if he's going to go to sleep. How is everybody else? I have 100 notes for this movie. More than 100, actually. I think it's like 103. Hang on. It's exactly 103. 103 notes for this movie. I did not like it. Spoiler alert.
No one is surprised.
Someone might be, James. Someone might be new here and is surprised that I did not. Everyone else I've talked to says that Anchorman is like one of the best movies of all time ever.
That's because people have joy in their life, and yours has been sucked away.
Sucks. Hate it. Hate the first one.
Yeah,
Hate
but
this one more.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Are you gonna blow it now before we record, or
You like things that are objectively bad. So you have
like what?
Glee. So you have
Glee was
zero space in this world to hate on other people liking things that are bad.
Glee was iconic for most of 2009 to 2011.
Yeah, so is Anchorman, and they're both bad. Glee is bad. Glee glamorized, overly sexual everything about high school for the
Okay.
entirety of the show. Very
Okay.
bad. Bad to do. Anchorman is bad because it's bad. But people like both.
I feel like you didn't make the point you wanted to make.
No, the point I wanted to make is your criticism of Anchorman has not nearly the weight you feel it does because you also like things that are bad.
Fat nuggets.
So there are people in this world who think Hazbin Hotel fucking blows.
I mean, there's probably a large majority of people who think Aspen Hotel.
There's a hair on your nose.
I didn't know what was happening. Fat nuggets. It's my birthday present from James. Got 1 minute. How's he looking?
Like he just drank a Red Bull.
He's just kicking so fast. Hope he's not pooping.
This sleep regression is going to drive me to drink.
I hope he's not pooping.
That'll be the worst diaper change in the history of ever. That can't possibly be true, actually.
No, remember that day that he pooped outside of his diaper into his pajamas?
Yeah, I don't know how he managed that. The diaper's engineered to not allow that to happen. He has moved all the way over the entire bed.
Has he found his chewy yet?
Yeah, he was chewing on it a little bit ago. It's somewhere around his body.
Well, do we want to keep hanging out for a little bit or try to record, or how you feeling?
I on edge constantly unless he's asleep. So you are making the call.
We'll let the coin make the call, I guess. Okay, I guess we're just going to try to record. You breathed like that was not the right call.
Are you Brick Tamlin? The way you breathe makes me feel bad. All right, Steve Carell. Fuck's sake. For hating this movie so much, you sure do talk like you were in it.
Fuck off. I gotta pull myself together so I can do the intro.
I don't believe you can or will.
Hi, this is CityWavesCinema. I'm America. That's James. What is wrong with you?
I'm really struggling to contain a burp right now.
Oh my god. And we watched Anchorman 2.
As soon as you hit record, the feeling hit my throat, and I was like, oh no. Oh, it's all over. There's a hot mic. It's all done.
Alrighty. Did you figure out your situation? Are you good now, or?
Who knows? It might happen. I don't know.
Okay. We watched Anchorman 2, and by we, I mean I watched Anchorman 2.
Well, now, I also watched Anchorman 2, but I watched Anchorman 2 in 2013 when it came out.
See, I was gonna finish
Oh,
that, but you
all
just
right. Well,
jumped on my sentence there, so you got anything else you want to add? Can I continue? Alrighty. I have to sneeze. God damn it.
we're off to a flying start.
This is rough. Okay. If
The
you
baby's yelling. This is fun.
if you hear our monitor like a baby crying, you're not going crazy. We're just trying to see if our son is going to go to sleep. But just wanted to reassure you that you're not going insane. All right, despite this rough start, I have 103 notes for this damn movie, so if we don't get going,
We'll never make it.
it's gonna be a really long episode.
We've got 51 and a half notes to get through.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Anchorman 2. We start off with credits before the movie, which was unusual in the year of 2013 when this movie was made. I swear to God, if I don't sneeze, I'm gonna die. So it was just an interesting twist. I also realized how little I remembered about the first movie as this movie started going. Like, mainly because I just didn't remember anyone's name or anything that happened. They were referencing things, and I had to Google what happened in the first movie. I have apparently blocked it from my psyche. Because I didn't remember that they were set in San Diego in the first one.
San Diego. This will be my contribution to the show. Good night, everyone.
Okay, so in the fall of 1979, which is important for later.
Here's the thing, though. No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
It is to you.
It's so important to me.
Specifically to you and the way your brain hates things that are fun.
It's very important. Just like the cans in Willy's Wonderland were so important. It's very important.
Oh God, the cans in Willy's Wonderland?
There was the wrong amount of cans.
I thought I was anal about garbage movies. Oh my God.
It is very important to know that it's set in 1979.
Okay, great. Hey, what year was this set in?
I'm gonna punch you in your kidneys. For legal reasons, that's a joke. Okay, so in the fall of 1979, we visit Ron Burgundy and Veronica Corningstone. They're husband and wife now, which did they get married in the last one?
I don't.
Or did that happen off screen?
I don't know or care.
Okay, see,
I'm pretty sure it happened off screen, but I don't know for sure.
These were the things that I had questions about that you were supposed to answer for me because I didn't remember anything that happened in the first one.
You needed answers from me? Why didn't you ask me the questions before we hit record?
Because normally you just answer the questions while we're alive,
Okay,
so...
hold on.
Okay.
No, they were not married at the end of the first movie.
Okay. So we also just see them. They're basically they're co-anchors for a prestigious news network in New York City, which is apparently the best town to do news in. In
1979.
And we see them like start their vocal warm-ups, which, first of all, vocal warm-ups, if you've never done them or never seen them, are the most awkward things that exist. It's not an exaggeration. Everything that they do is pretty much accurate. And if you ever go to like a green room before a theater show, it's just like 100 kids or actors doing the exact same thing. And it all looks like that.
Oh no!
They're
coming in the back door!
they legitimately like have you yell random things and say like weird tongue twisters, and it kind of looks like a cult, and it's a lot. So I always enjoy seeing like the interpretation of vocal warm-ups because they're always funny. Um, and then we find out that Mac Tannen, who's the most famous nightly news anchor in New York City.
New York City.
I knew if I just sprinkled it a little on my voice, he would just jump in.
You fucking baited me on that.
I did.
I hate you.
I
hate you.
I triggered a script. I triggered a script you have.
I'm gonna do something. What it is, who knows? But something's gonna happen at some point. I'm gonna fart so hard I blow my asshole out. I don't know.
What will that do to me? How is that a punishment?
You take me to the hospital with a blown out asshole.
Anyways, this guy's retiring, and he promotes Veronica.
Fuck you.
He promotes Veronica.
How dare you make me script on television?
We're not on TV.
How dare you trigger my fucking innate scripts?
Dear God.
Why would you do this to me?
Oh gosh, this is about as bad as the movie.
Oh no!
He promotes Veronica and then fires Ron, saying he's like the worst news anchor he's ever seen in the history of news anchors.
Do you do this to me all the time?
Yes.
Oh, the betrayal. That's something I'm sensitive about.
And it was during this whole sequence with the boss that I kind of just looked and I was like, did they write a script? Like, were there written lines for this movie? Because it just kind of feels like everyone made it up. Like you said, like sketch comedy. Like they had like a frame of a scene and they were like, go.
Okay, so here's the thing. Yes.
Okay.
A lot of what made it into the movie is improv on the script.
Everything makes so much more sense.
So Will Ferrell and Adam McKay wrote the script, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can find scattered across the internet scenes that are like well-known scenes from the movie that are just entirely different than what they are in the released film, because they would improv so much while they were in there. And as we discussed earlier today, Adam McKay is something of a titan of improv, having started Upright Citizens Brigade as one of the founding members. So that just sort of comes with the territory of his movies, I feel, at least his comedies. So yes, a lot of what you're going to gripe about with the movie is because they bullshit the entire thing.
It felt like that. Like, you know how people joke that Pirates of the Caribbean is like that? This movie felt like it was actually like that. Like, it just felt so... Like, I could tell that they were improving.
I'm not convinced Brick Tamland has lines.
Yeah.
I think they just let Steve Carell do stuff.
And that's how I felt about Will Ferrell, like, especially in...
And Kristen Wiig, too.
One of the other scenes later on. I was like, I can tell that, like, I can see the gears turning in his brain as he's talking. But anyways, there's that information. I thought for sure him like getting fired was a nightmare because they set up the sequence for him to like wake up all freaked out or something, and then it actually wasn't a nightmare and he actually got fired. But I also kind of like that it was finally acknowledged. It brought some satisfaction and peace to me because they do like a montage of like really horrible clips that Ron Burgundy has done, because the guy says like, no, you're awful, and he like has flashbacks to all these things.
I like when they smoke crack on television.
And I really enjoyed how much like they acknowledged that Ron Burgundy actually sucks as a news anchor. Like, because in the first one it was kind of like they were all so good at being news anchors. That was the big thing. And in this one, it just felt really nice to have someone acknowledge that Ron Burgundy sucks. So the other thing is, I have a lot of notes at the beginning of just like the feel and the vibe of this movie. The other thing I start to feel like is like it becomes like a parody of the other one. I feel like the characters are more overblown. They're even less realistic of people, and it just feels like we're blowing out of proportion like the archetypes from the first movie. Um, so I didn't like it. It was bad. But then we flash to Veronica and Ron's home because they're married and they have a child apparently.
Hold on. All the characters from the first movie are objectively blown out of proportion stereotypes of bad people from the 70s.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So you mean to tell me when they took all those same characters, put them in this movie, and made them even more overblown stereotypes of bad people from the 70s, it upset your delicate sensitivities?
No, it didn't feel as realistic as the first one. Like it felt like they were doing it too much. It was too extra. Like the performances were too extra.
Brick has a gun from the future. What part of the movie makes it so that you think it's supposed to be realistic? Well, there's a ghost and a minotaur the ghost is of Stonewall Jackson. I there is a point in these movies where you have to suspend your disbelief, and that point is before you sit down to watch it.
And I did in the first one, but like the characters felt like they could be real people. These ones just felt like they were making fun of those characters.
Yeah, that's why this movie made triple its budget.
Anyways,
when you double down on bad that makes money, you make more money.
Are you done?
Probably not, but carry on.
Anyways, we're at Ron and Veronica's home. We find out that they have a son who is he's 6.
Walter. 6 years old.
Damn.
What?
Nothing. Something that'll be important later. So his son is 6.
Born in 1973.
And they get in a fight, and basically Ron gives Veronica an ultimatum that she can either have the job or him. And she chooses the job. So they are separated, but I don't think they're ever officially divorced. They're just separated right now. And then we flash forward to 6 months later in 1980. What?
Nothing.
You breathed again.
I want you to know I do that with great frequency.
You know what I mean?
To carry on, we've done a lot of episodes of this show, and if you wanted me to be in all of them, I would need to breathe with decent regularity.
You know what I mean.
When was MTV founded?
See, now you know why I said that there was something important later. I need to check.
Was it 1981 or was it 1980?
Listen, I'll look it up on the break because it's not important right now. It'll be important later.
Rick has a gun from the future.
I'm going to fight you on this podcast.
Kanye West is the lead anchor at MTV. Who gives a shit?
In 1980, 6 months later, Ron's back in San Diego, and he's barely like able to keep a job because he has depression, but like he also is like working like not anchor jobs or anything in his skill set. He's like doing random side hustles, basically part-time gigs, which okay, like I get he sucks, but like he's an award-winning news anchor. Before he even went to New York, like he was an award-winning news anchor. So like he couldn't find another job.
You answered your own question though.
Why?
He goes to New York, and after a little bit, he's inevitably fired. Why is he fired? Remind me. Why he's fired?
Because he sucks.
That's right. Now, in this world, everyone knows that except him and his news team. They all think he's maybe Jesus. So why couldn't he get like another news anchor job? Because he fucking sucks. He is bad in every way. And he got, in the first movie, he got fucking dropped from his network. And then in this movie, he gets dropped from his network again. He's flash in the pan good, and then he's dog shit. He smoked crack on air.
That happens in the new news network.
Yeah. Bad. They got arrested. He is so dog shit. What do you mean he can't find a job within his skill set? He doesn't have one. He reads everything that's on the prompter as it is. It was in all caps and he screamed the report. What? You're asking stupid questions.
There's no such
about
thing.
The stupid movie. There is such a thing as stupid questions. If someone ever tells you, this is a life thing. If someone ever tells you there's no such thing as a stupid question, they're full of shit. From their asshole to their mouth, they're full of it. They are dumb as rocks. There is such a thing as stupid questions. Most of the time, children ask them. The rest of the time, dumbass adults ask them. This is a stupid question. Why can't he find a job? 1, it's a movie. He's not supposed to. 2, he sucks. No one would take him.
He's working at like SeaWorld. And I've decided that just on a strict basis, nowhere that there are children should hire Ron Burgundy. And that HR person should be fired for hiring him. He's so miserable with his life that he goes back to his dressing room and tries to unalive himself for reasons of YouTube. And I hated that, just in general, that whole scene, because it was in poor taste. It was not funny. It was dumb. The physical comedy didn't hit. It was just awkward. And after he fails at unaliving himself, this person comes in and more or less offers him a job at this new network that's going to be 24-hour news network, which is where my troubles began. Actually, they began...
You didn't have troubles up to this point?
No.
Well, goddamn, you got through like 15, 20 minutes of movie.
No, this is where I had to start Googling things.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Because I needed to know information, to make sure that the movie was telling its jokes correctly. And James is going to have an aneurysm by the end of this podcast episode with me doing this. Period. Because it's going to happen a lot. I actually did one before this where I Googled something about when the BP oil spill was because it was referenced, but that's not important. So I first asked, are they supposed to be like CNN? And then the name is GNN. So yes. And then I had to figure out when did CNN like come about to make sure that it was like timeline appropriate. It was. And then yeah, so the answer is this is supposed to basically be this universe's CNN. It's a 24-hour news network. And they want to hire Ron, and Ron can basically bring whatever team he wants. So here's my next issue that I have with satirical parody media. And this goes for everything. This goes for South Park, which I love. This goes for everything. Satirical / parody media really like is...
You're lucky he's crying.
James has to leave.
You are goddamn lucky he's crying.
James has to go leave. He's not going to know what I say. So the issue I have with satirical parody media is that it's only relevant when it's relevant. So even South Park, everything like that, there are only jokes that you get if you are in the time, like when those jokes are relevant. I've had to Google so much for this movie already. Like I just had to Google, okay, what is this referencing? What is this? What is that? I guess have to is a strong word. Did I have to? No. Did I do so? Yes, because that's who I am as a person. So the movie makes a lot of topical jokes, but the topical jokes are about the current topics of 2013 USA. Um and so if you're not there, like you have to like go back and figure out what references are, fact check that all the shit is like correct, and it's annoying. It's annoying. I was glad I was watching this movie at work because I had two monitors and I was watching it on my phone. So I had like my notes over here. I was Googling all this stuff over here. Like it was just so important for me to like know what was going on in this movie. Because otherwise I don't understand the jokes and it's not as funny. And I really was trying to enjoy this movie, despite what James might think. So TLDR, I had to Google a lot because a lot of stuff's only funny when it's relevant. I then said cue the recruitment montage because I knew that Ron was going to go like find all the guys again, and I was joking, and then it happened. So, we go through basically each person, rounding up the team of the news group that he had before, whose names none of them which I remembered. So there was a couple good jokes as we go get let's see if I can find his name. Champ, because I can never remember it. I said Chance earlier in my notes too. So we go to Champ first, who is running a fried chicken fast food restaurant, which doesn't serve chicken. It serves chicken of the cave, which is bats, in case you were wondering. There's a couple few like really good jokes actually in this scene, and you can quote me on that and tell James about it later. I actually chuckled at a couple of the jokes in Champ's scene. And I had the same question, which James is going to get mad at. How was Champ not able to find like any other kind of work? Because he was also an award-winning like sports news anchor. So he ends up getting Champ back, and then we go to find Brian, Fantana, Brian Fantana, and that is played by Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is hiding the Fountain of Youth from us all because he looks the exact same no matter when you're watching him. He has gotten a job taking pictures of kittens, and the noises he makes at the kittens he's photographing, bleh, would have PETA like lined up wherever he went. It is so uncomfortable. My question for him is not how he could find another job, because clearly he found another job. He's very successful. He's very wealthy. How did he end up like being a cat photographer? Like, I want to know how we ended up from news anchor to cat photographer. Cause that I have questions. So then we go to recruit the last person of our team, which is Brick. And Brick, we find out from Brian, has died. And we go to his funeral. I was so upset. I was so upset. I said my exact note was, OMG, Steve Carell died. How am I supposed to enjoy this fucking movie without him? He didn't actually die. I was so annoyed when he showed up at his own funeral, which is the point. Like, it's I get it. But like this is where I start to have issues feeling like they're just too overblown parodies of the original characters. It was like, Brick's stupid, but he's also not like that stupid. Like, okay, the first Anchorman was iconic, right? Like, I didn't like it, but like other people are in love with it. So when you try to follow it up with the same level of energy that you like started at with Anchorman, and you try to match that and like exceed it, it feels overdone. like characters turn into parodies of themselves. It doesn't hit the same, and like most of your audience that you get attending to this movies, which is how it made so much fucking money, are people that are just there because they enjoyed the first one so much, and then they end up either feeling like they have to pretend that they liked it, or they end up feeling like let down by it. So it's just eh, I so we then go and we kind of get this scene where they're all like catching up and trading jokes and reminiscing about the past as they're like driving to their new job. And we, at some point, Paul Rudd looks at Ron and he's like, "Who's driving?" And Ron's like, "I have it on cruise control." It took me an embarrassingly long time to realize that no one was driving the van. I noticed it like a hair before Paul Rudd's character, Brian, says something. Like, didn't even think about the fact that the four of them were back there and no one was driving. So we then kind of, as we're going through these like reminiscing memories, they kind of go, "Oh, Ron, why do you have like these bowling balls and these scorpions and things like that?" And then the van waited for like the most comedic moment. It's been driving straight for like so long. Like most of the conversation is just driving straight down the road. And then it just waited for the comedic moment to like spin out of nowhere. Had nary a problem for like a good solid mile. And then it just decided, "Oh, now I no longer can drive." I rewound this van sequence a lot to write all these notes. A lot. So, here we go. They really set up the most outlandish shit just to make this sequence happen. It feels like someone really wanted to do like the van bit so much that they worked backwards from that and had like no ideas were thrown out. Anything that was suggested in the writing room went, or anything that this couldn't have been like severely improv because it's like a short slow motion scene of all these things happening. So any idea was kept. I really, and this is another problem that I have with this movie, I really thought that the joke was going to be like that they were so hideously scarred from this that none of them can be anchors. And Ron has to like find an entirely new team to like help him out. I thought that's where the movie was going to go. Like that would be so much better than what I knew it wasn't going to do that, but that would be so much better than the movie that they showed me. So okay. So with Champ, he got burned by oil and then he got bitten by the dog, which seems a bit unfair because like he's the only one that has like double the trauma done to him. So then Brick has ice cream, and I get that Brick's thing is like it's just random and nothing makes sense with him, and he's basically like a Deadpool character in this universe because he just randomly has shit all the time. But he has a random ice cream cone, and it's just other items were like contained to the van. So here's something James is going to complain with. I would like my outlandish fake universe shit to at least be consistent. If we're going to follow if we're going to have these like scenes and these rules, we need to at least follow the rules for them. But I digress. I didn't notice the scorpions in the first watch. I actually watched some clips again today. So I didn't notice that there were scorpions in the car before, and I just thought there was a random scorpion. Here's what I discovered watching this sequence frame by frame. You get to see a lot of stuff that like people probably missed, which is kind of a good and a bad thing. It's a double-edged sword. So I was able to catch stuff like when it's going super fast, you probably just see like, oh, it's super funny. Like there's this funny thing that's happening. When you watch it frame by frame, you can catch a lot more of like the slip ups and the things that are wrong with it. That being said, I also felt like that scene didn't go long enough. Like I felt like it was cut off too short. Ironic, I know. And here's where I'm going to explain my next problem with this movie. They don't follow jokes through. It feels very much like what the writer is good at, which is sketch comedy. It feels like a bunch of separate sketches involving these characters that are not connected in any way. Which is fine, because that's sometimes people are interested in that. But also, this isn't just individual sketches, this is a movie, and none of the things that happen in the first scene have any representation in the next scene. I.e., what would have been funny is if they showed up to GNN busted all to hell and had to kind of go through that because they were in this huge van crash. That would have been really funny to see. You could have done a lot of jokes with that in physical comedy and all this stuff, but instead they just get there and they're fine. So there's not any fucking payoff for any of that physical comedy that they went through in the first half. So I guess my big thing is you could remove that van bit entirely and it wouldn't matter. So someone just shoved it into the movie because they liked it and it's annoying. So we get to meet the new rival news anchor for this movie because we had one in the first movie, so we got to do it again, which is called James Lime, and it's played by James Marsden, who was in the X-Men movies and a bunch of other stuff, and he's so pretty. He's such an attractive human being, so at least there's something pretty to look at while I suffer through this movie. He also has a killer smolder, just saying. Steve Carell is so funny. I would enjoy this movie so much more if it was just Steve Carell. So we're in the new GNN building and we're getting to meet Jack Lime and all this stuff, and they basically make a bet because he gets in a little tiff with Burgundy right off the bat. They make a bet with Jack that they can get better ratings at their 2 a.m. slot than Jack gets at the primetime slot. And if they do that, then Jack has to change his name to Jack Lame. And if they lose, if Ron and his team lose, then he will never read the news again and go back to San Diego, basically. So yeah, GNN launches, and at this point Ron and his team have come up with this whole idea that they don't have to actually tell the news. They can just broadcast what people want to hear about, and they do a whole bunch of sequences of that, and it starts by them watching a high-speed chase live. Their new approach is a hit, everyone's in love with it, and other networks are scrambling to emulate them. They're super famous again, they're at the top of their game, and under the bet, as a little running gag for the rest of the movie, Jack Lime does change his name to Jack Lame. So they get this new job, and they meet their new boss, who is a person of color. It's only important because the movie makes it important. So it's the jokes with the boss, whose name escapes me, are so much. They're a little too heavy on the racism, and it trends towards being more uncomfortable than it does funny. So I feel like it's a lot. Linda Jackson is her name. So they meet their new boss, and the whole interaction with everyone is awkward. Everyone's either racist or they're Brick, who is stupid. So it's just Yeah. Um she basically tells them that as long as they keep the ratings up, she'll be happy. She doesn't care if they're uncomfortable about her skin or anything like that. Just keep your ratings up and basically we don't have to interact. And they all say okay, they keep their ratings up, and then we kind of flash over Ron's feeling good about himself. He's got his mojo back. He's like, "Great, I'm going to go get my girl back." So he goes to visit Veronica, um who is now with another man. Like, she wasted no time. And he's just at the house with their kid. So she is dating a psychologist who Ron thinks can read his mind. And then he brought a gift for Veronica, which was some lingerie, and he tries to play it off like he bought it for his son. The whole that whole thing too, just like Ron being a dad makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't know. This movie did a lot more of making me feel annoyed and uncomfortable than it did anything else. So we're almost, actually, believe it or not, halfway through my notes, and we're almost to the perfect time and stream, so we're doing great. So we go back to the GNN office and we do another bit about like them yelling across the office to Jack, and it's just, it's fine. Um this movie also does something where it like telegraphs a joke way before it happens, which then makes the joke not funny. They did it with the bowling balls in the van. They do it with different like scenes and just different scenes throughout the movie, and it's just every time it's like, okay, well now I know what the punchline's going to be because you set it up so hard. Um that being said, there's also some really good satire in this movie, like the satirical portion talking about like people wanting to what people wanting to hear what they want to hear and what they need to hear over what they need to hear is so true. As we see it especially now in this climate, that people are only interpreting what they want to hear and like excluding anything that's actual really happening. So that's just being that's super super good. So I really enjoyed that portion. For those of you that are live, I paused our recording because I can hear my child like freaking out, freaking out. So we're gonna do a quick BRB. I'm probably going to finish this episode when I come back. But I just wanted to let you guys know what was going on because I need to go help out. So please hold. It'll feel really weird when I come back.
It was wishful thinking that we would get to record something today. Kiddo has not been sleeping well. Going to sleep, staying asleep. Bedtime was an hour and 20 minutes ago, and he has slept 4 minutes. Being a parent, you know. He doesn't want to sleep ever. He doesn't sleep enough. He doesn't want to sleep. He doesn't like to sleep. He pounded 6 ounces of a bottle laying in my lap on his way to sleep. As soon as he finished, he woke all the way up again, fully powered with energy. Almost went to sleep on the bottle. America might have got him down. If I was picking him up, he would fall asleep in my arms in a minute, 2 minutes, the whole time I was in there. And he just would not stay asleep. If I put him down, wake right up.
Have you just been sitting here?
A little bit.
Did you turn on the camera correctly?
No, I left it like that.
Hmm.
We were still be right back.
But the mic was on.
Yeah, I was telling them how fucking terrible I am.
At what? Putting the baby down?
But I'm really good at putting the baby down. He's really bad at staying asleep when I put him down.
We'll see if it lasts. All right. I have to figure out what I was talking about and pretend like I am still talking for recording. I also left Hatch on just at the lowest setting because I'm wondering if it's like when he's in the car. I'm wondering if he started to notice that it's off and it's making him nervous. We'll see. It's just a thought. Okay. Okay, perfect. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to take a sip of water first. I was giving a mini concert. So, all right, here we go. So then we're kind of introduced to one of the other B plots of this movie, which is Brick and his love story. He gets a B plot love story.
Johnny.
So I really liked that they gave the love story to him this time. Because it's just so much better than Ron having it in the first one. It was so good. Like, I But you also like couldn't have this one without the first one, so I don't know. I just really enjoyed having Brick have the love story. Um Also how either of them got a job, like Brick or what's her name? Chani. How either of them got a job in the first place blows my mind.
It's unclear.
Um Chani's only job is to answer phones and she can't do that. Um and they basically he goes over and is interested in her, and then they get in a fight with Chani's boss cuz she's upset cuz Chani's not answering the phone, and then Brick yells at her boss, and then Chani yells at her boss, and then Chani's shirt's just ripped open for some reason. And then
I thought that was the second time they meet at the office.
maybe, but it's it's in my sequence of notes, so I must not have had anything to say about the first time that they met in the office. Anyways,
It's such a D plot in a movie that has no plots.
anyways, so every once in a while this movie has a narrator, and he always comes in when I've conveniently forgot that this movie has a narrator, and it alarms me
Surprise.
every time. Like I'd just be like really invested in the movie, and then suddenly there'd be narration, and I was like, why? Where did it come from? One thing I really loved about their whole little sequence of their news stories that they tell is we would also get to see the people that were.
You loved a thing?
I've actually loved a lot of things, but you haven't been here to hear them, so.
Pardon me, I was being a father to my child.
No, I know, but I kept saying, I was like, someone tell James later, remind James that I said this, so.
I'm gonna have to listen to this episode of our show.
I did say it. So. You always make me lose my place, too. I'm on a
sorry.
run. So what I really loved about them, like, showing their, like, news segment is we also got to see the people that are watching the news at 2 a.m. before they get promoted to prime time. And I just really enjoyed it because it just felt very accurate. Like there were people like at bars or like in really random situations, and I'm like, those would be the people watching news at 2 a.m. in the morning. So my other issue is like they built up their broadcast, their first broadcast, like that was going to be like the super funniest, best thing that ever happened. And the show builds it up like that, or the movie builds it up like that too. And it was kind of just like meh. I thought it was going to be bigger and funnier. Brick is so funny, and he has no reason being as funny as he is.
I have two reasons.
Okay.
Adam McKay writes decently, and Brick Tamland is played by infamously funny Steve Carell. You could not recast Brick as another person.
No, but I did say if I was going to recast this movie, I would put Zac Efron as James Lime.
As Jack Lime?
Jack Lime, yeah. I was thinking James Marsden in my head, but.
Well, it is James Marsden, so
yeah.
You were there. But who would play Ron Burgundy?
That's not important.
Only the star of the movie.
Okay, but we're not talking about that right now. I mean, we can because I'm in the middle of my notes, so I should stop. But I don't care who plays Ron Burgundy. I just want Zac Efron to play Jack Lime. And then I want Ryan Reynolds to be the Canadian news anchor.
What if it was Jim Carrey as Ron Burgundy, but Jim Carrey from like 2002?
Nah. Jim's comedy doesn't hit the same. It wouldn't be the same. You have to find someone that's just Jim Carrey's too likable.
Who plays arrogant well?
In this day and age?
Yeah. Like who plays arrogant so well that they could pull off a Ron Burgundy, but also is a talented improviser?
I don't know.
We're sort of exiting an era of actors that can do that sort of comedy.
I'm gonna need you to.
The
Oh,
guy
are
the
you talking
guy
about
Adam.
Devine? Adam Devine?
Yeah, I think so.
He would be funny, but it also just doesn't feel. He doesn't feel smarmy enough. He's too much of like a teddy bear.
Like, okay, so here's the thing, right? Will Ferrell puts on an astonishingly good performance in this movie because he becomes the most, and I mean it's more so in the first movie, but he becomes that guy. He is the smarmy, terrible, sexist, racist, misogynistic news anchor who's stupid in every way except for like two ways, and even then he's average at best. The only thing he's properly good at is playing the flute, as we saw,
I was literally thinking about the flute in my head. I was like, he's actually good at playing the flute.
which is one of the best scenes in the first movie is when he plays the flute at the diner and everyone fucking loves it. It like, yeah, I
There's just not a good.
there's not another Will Ferrell.
Yeah, and I don't like Will Ferrell, which is part of the issue. So, but that's what makes Ron work so well for me. I think in particular is because I really dislike Will Ferrell.
You harbor this extremely fiery hatred for a handful of actors for like the most off the wall reasons.
I don't hate Will Ferrell. He was great in Elf. I just find him obnoxious.
That's his whole shtick.
I know, and for some people that's funny. For me, I don't like it. Some people don't like Trey and Matt Park, like Trey.
Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Some people don't find them funny at all, and I think they're hilarious. So
A lot of people think that Seth MacFarlane.
I was thinking Seth in my head, and I knew you were gonna say it. And yeah, no, a lot of people find he's made a bajillion dollars for a reason.
I struggle with Seth MacFarlane because like I think a lot of his stuff misses, but when he hits so good. And for me, it's rare that he hits, but when he does, it's so funny.
I will say, I can.
There's a handful of things from like American Dad, from Family Guy, from A Million Ways to Die in the West, which we watched. Like, there's a handful of things that he's done where you just go, "Oh shit, that is good."
Like, my issue with Seth is more that like his jokes are always the same, like 10 jokes.
Yeah, but the problem is those 10 jokes are applicable throughout time. It's just
I talked a lot about
it.
that. I talked about how a lot of times, and this is an issue I have with just this movie. It was something that I mentioned earlier, but you were taking care of the child, was satirical comedy is only sometimes funny when the topical jokes are still topical. And it's something that I have with South Park and certain episodes of South Park and a lot of satirical parody comedy, which I love, is that not all the jokes transcend time. But Seth MacFarlane is very good at doing that.
You know who else is really good at doing it, but in the satire category? Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the oh fuck, it's my favorite one of his.
Robin Hood?
Blazing Saddles.
Oh.
You can't deny that a lot of the plots hinged on the fact that the sheriff is black, and all the race jokes hit in 2025 like they did in 1970 whatever.
That's what I said about the race jokes in this movie too, is that
they all work.
Oh, I said no, they didn't. I felt like they were too much.
Well, that's the thing.
Oh gosh. Well, let's talk about that in the next episode, because this episode's already running long and I haven't even gotten to the race scene really.
Oh god.
I talked about the first one.
I was really hoping you blazed past that while I was.
I talked about the first one where like they did the little like introduction to Linda Jackson, but I have not gone on the date yet, so that's coming.
Woof.
So we'll talk about that next time.
Black.
That already happened.
It's so bad.
Okay. We'll see you next episode. All right. That was
just roll right into it.
That was clunky.
Save it.
Yeah, we
roll right in.
You have to type though, because you're at the keyboard.
What's this movie fucking called?
Anchorman 2.
Click save.
Alrighty. Are you still trying to make sure that other things happen?
No, irrelevant.
Okay.
He's still asleep. We gotta go.
Okay. I need to find where I am in my notes and gather myself. Okay, yes. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we're back. I'm America. That's James. This is CityWavesCinema. We watched Anchorman 2. This is episode 2. And I made it through a whole intro and nothing went off the rails. So, are we even on the same podcast right now?
Racism.
We're not there yet. Believe it or not. I will show you where we are. We're like right here. So also this is not in order. I've discovered already.
Incredible.
So we kind of get to see how Ron and his team's success is going, is kind of where we're at in this movie. They all end up in this really nice penthouse that they all share with giant works of art of their faces. Mm-hmm. I want to know, because like, unless they got paid a lot of money up front, which I doubt, they suddenly become really rich really quickly and have the money to afford this giant penthouse. And then we kind of see them like getting like sponsorships and stuff like that. I could have lived my entire life without watching the butter ad with Brick and Steve Carell just taking multiple bites out of a stick of butter.
I'm not gonna lie to you, that butter stick looked like it was a stick of Parmesan cheese.
I always wonder what they do for like those food things, because that typically
they'll could have been tofu too.
Typically they'll replace like the food with something more enjoyable. Like if you see someone eat organs, it's typically like gummy candy and stuff like that. So I always
sometimes if you see them eating frozen yogurt or ice cream, like on The Good Place, it's actually mashed potatoes.
Yeah,
that's not necessarily more enjoyable. But it doesn't melt.
I didn't like learning that. But yeah, so I could have lived a long time without watching that butter ad. Then they win an Emmy, because of course they do.
Ratings, baby, ratings.
Here's where we come back to, we circle back to one of my problems of the movie not following through with its jokes, which James is going to say is because it's a sketch comedy, and I'm going to say it's a movie and the sketches all connect together in a story, so we should connect the sketches together.
That's what you say.
Ron and his team go and get perms for reasons. It's not important. What is important is
James' perm is so funny.
They show them with the perms.
It's just the sides and back.
And then in the next scene, Ron doesn't have a perm. And I think it would be funnier if we saw
it's a callback joke.
To what?
To the first movie, when they go to buy suits and they never end up with the suits.
I don't remember that.
In the first movie, they have some success and then they talk about, we should go buy new suits. And they do that same jump thing where they're all like, hooray, we're going to go get the new suits. Like it's some fucking K-pop ad or some shit. They all do the jump thing and then they go get the suits, but they get lost and then they have their fight. In this movie, they're like, let's go get perms. So they do their little jump thing. It's a callback joke. And then they leave with the perms and then they don't have the perms. We never see them in the first movie with their fancy suits, as far as I can remember.
Because they got in a fight. That at least makes sense.
Well, yeah, but that's because Brick said he knew a shortcut to the suit store. And then they foolishly followed Brick.
Yeah, and they get in a fight so they don't get the suits. That makes sense. They got the perms.
And Brick has a gun from the future. It doesn't matter.
You cannot keep saying that every time I bring up a flaw in this movie. You cannot just keep saying Brick had a gun from the future, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can.
Oh my god.
Kirsten Dunst shows up as the Maiden of the Clouds who sounds the horn for the battle at the end of the movie, okay? Nothing matters because it's all insane.
Linda...
You don't have the perms. You sound ridiculous.
Linda, the boss, sexually aggresses on Ron Burgundy for reasons. I don't know what women's fucking fetish is with this man, but there you go. I also wrote, and I quote...
I love how much you hate that.
I quote, this is something I said, it's not going to happen for obvious reasons, but I did say, I swear if they bone, I quit. Life, this podcast, the channel, I quit. Was my exact words. And then they like literally boned in the next scene.
She didn't mean that. She didn't mean that at all.
I did.
No.
I did.
But then they fuck.
I did like that the objectification was turned on to Ron instead of like him being the one objectifying women. He was being objectified by Linda, and that felt really satisfying. There were some good moments in this movie where they like turned things on Ron, like when they acknowledged he was a bad news anchor, and like when they acknowledged that like he's a sexual aggressor. Like that's, I don't know, it was just nice to have that. So I made another note that was like, I feel like people are just making shit up in this movie, which again we talked about in the first episode. So, and then there's the sex montage with Linda and Ron, and why? It was weird. And it was flashing back and forth to like other things. I don't know. The whole thing felt weird. I even wrote that I didn't understand what I was watching anymore. And then we get like almost a semblance of a real plot in this movie where we find out that the story that Brian is going to do on the news that weekend is actually a story about airplane parts falling from the sky, because the CEO of GNN also owns like an airline business, and his planes are shoddy as hell and their airplane parts are falling from the sky. And so we get this whole like conspiracy plot line that doesn't really matter until like the very last scene of this movie. And it barely matters. That's all. But we find that out with this little interaction between Linda and the CEO who's from Australia. And that's literally like his only character trait, is that he's a CEO, he builds shoddy airplanes, and he's from Australia.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You remember in the first movie how Baxter talked to the bears?
I have a couple questions.
No, but I have the questions.
Yeah, but who's Baxter?
Ron's dog.
Got it.
Jack Black throws off the bridge.
I do remember Jack Black throwing him off the bridge because I was very upset.
Right.
I don't remember him talking to bears.
When Ron and his dearly beloved
are in the bear pit, yeah. No, the dog does go talk to the bears.
Talks to the bears.
Yeah.
Nothing is fucking real. The dog talked to the bears. You're out of your fucking mind. They have perms and then they don't have perms. Dogs talk to bears.
We've moved on from the perms. I'm talking about the plot line of the conspiracy theory.
CEOs can be from Australia. It's okay.
That I didn't say they couldn't be. I just said you only have 3 character traits. I'm
still just mad about the things that you're mad at because they're dumb.
I'm giving actual all props to this movie, and you're jumping back like 10 minutes ago to when I was talking about the freaking...
Yeah, but I forgot that Baxter talked until right now.
Well, that's your problem.
And I'm making it all of our problems.
Anyway, this is what you do. Then I lose where I am in the plot, and then I lose the entirety of the plot, and then
So
we...
there's a conspiracy theory that doesn't pay off until the very end.
Okay. I believe, yes, that this is the scene that James wanted to talk about.
Oh, Lord.
Or wanted to avoid talking about.
I don't know that I wanted to talk about this scene.
There is a scene where Linda takes Ron to meet her family.
An astounding choice.
I know everything that happens in this scene is on purpose, but it's a lot. It's a lot. It's uncomfortable, and it's a lot. I wanted to leave my body watching this.
There's a lot that you can read from this scene, and I see. So I work a blue collar job. Work with a lot of blue collar guys, and it's really fascinating to watch dudes who look like me after a little while start to code switch and start to interact with dudes who don't look like me in their sort of communication wavelengths.
Lingo?
Yeah, lingo, dialect, whatever. This is that cranked to 12 and bad.
Tone deaf.
Or
no, like Will's character is being tone deaf.
Yes. But like, to me, the scene doesn't make me uncomfortable because it's like I look at it and I go, oh, I know a guy who's been like that. Whereas I don't look at it and go, oh, I've been like that. But like, I know somebody who's done stuff like that. Certainly not to that extent. But it's one of the scenes in the movie where it's like, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it does like point to something that's very problematic in society that we don't talk about frequently, if at all. And it's like one of the writing points where I'm like, hey, good on you, Adam McKay, for doing that scene like you did. A bold choice.
Ron kind of lets all this fame, especially with his relationship with Linda, kind of like go to his head. So we have to have this scene where now he's being a bad father, which he already was, so that doesn't change, but he also is kind of like alienating his friends.
Nothing like getting the band not back together again.
Yeah, there was just it felt like there were so many disjointed scenes that just didn't all connect, and this was one of like, why did they need to have fighting? There was nothing that like preceded this to like build that up or anything. It was just 1 minute Ron decided that he was going to be mean to his friends, which is against his entire character. He's always nice to his friends, especially like Brick and stuff, and it felt ugh.
He does mention wanting to punch Brick in the face in this movie.
It's not until like this section though.
Because Brick dies.
And he also like yells at...
Stupid.
James is also playing catch up because he wasn't here for a lot of the things that we talked about already. So, I wrote, how is this a movie? And then what's really funny is this whole movie's thing is they're crediting Ron Burgundy for like coming up with certain news types, and one of them is like showing car chases on the news, which is what happens here. Like all of his friends basically quit on him, and he just watches a car chase live and narrates it. And it kind of annoyed me that this movie was crediting Ron Burgundy for all modern news types. And then we had to bring the flute in because Will Ferrell can play the flute. And that's I feel like the only reason it came back in this movie, but he
Hey,
ice skates.
sometimes when you audition for stuff, they ask you what special skills you have, and in this case, it actually mattered.
Um,
I can ride horseback. I can play the flute. Oh, you can? Fuck yeah. We're gonna write that in.
so Ron ice skates and plays the flute, and then Jack throws a cord onto the rink. This is like a big party celebrating Ron. Ron trips over the cord as he skates. His head doesn't hit the ice. I rewound. I watch. His head doesn't even hit the ice. Like everyone freaks out and they're like, "Oh no, he's dead." And his head didn't even hit the ice. They'll tell you it did, but it didn't. Um and because his head hit the ice, he's blind. Okay.
Oh no, my disbelief. It's not suspended.
No,
Ah.
stupid movie's gonna stupid movie, but like I feel the need to tell you that those are the exact sequence of events that lead to the stupidity. Like here we are, he's blind now. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Um so it's at this point that I feel like the movie could have ended. Like there are so many times where in these next few setups that like the movie could have ended. Like I feel like Ron could have gone blind and they could have been like, and that was the end of the legend of Ron Burgundy because he tripped on his ice skate and busted his eyes. He could no longer read the teleprompter, but he was credited as starting like all modern news. Like I thought that would have been like a really cool way to end it. That's ending option 1. There's like 6 more between now and the end of the movie. So then Ron is living in a lighthouse. And because we didn't take an actual break, I need you to do a favor for me and look up when MTV started. Because we're gonna get there really quickly. So Ron lives in a lighthouse and his friends come and see him and they're talking to him about his life and he just keeps saying all this really stupid shit that happens because he's blind, even though being blind would have no actual consequence to most of these things. And Paul Rudd's character, Brian, calls him out on it several times. And Paul Rudd's just speaking all the audience's thoughts. Like, it's so stupid. I hated it. And then Veronica shows up. And it's like, okay, so they're back together. What happened to the psychologist? No explanation will be given. She just comes back and brings the boy, and they're all like a family as Ron learns to cope with being blind. It's at this point that, like I said, I just keep getting bored with the movie. It was bad to begin with, but like I literally at this point in the movie don't care. Like all of the cares were drained from my body. The first one felt like a complete story. This one felt like a bunch of sketches that don't connect. And I know I've said that before, but I need to explain how much it doesn't feel like a movie.
1979. Yep. In 1979, executives at the newly formed Warner American Express Satellite Entertainment Company started developing MTV, which was then tested on their network, hosting 15-minute album shows called album tracks.
They started developing it. When did it air?
It was launched officially on television in 1981.
Ha! My point still stands. All right. And we're getting to that point right now.
I'm gonna have an aneurysm.
So, Ron goes and gets his eyes fixed, and he goes back to being doing the news and stuff. But he also is promised to be a good father and not make the same mistakes. So he's supposed to go to his son's recital, right? Also, Ron getting his eyes back could have been another good ending to this movie. But anyways, he's going to his son's recital. So he leaves the news to go and run across town. He tries to get a taxi, can't get a taxi. So he tries to run across town to get to his son's recital. On the way, because there was a fight in the first movie and everyone thought it was so funny, we're going to do the exact same thing again, but worse. So, we James's face is so much. So it's just like the first one where a bunch of different news crews all come together to fight. Here's the difference though. This movie is now taking place in 1980. Googling MTV is one of the first people to jump in. It's the BBC, and then MTV jumps into this fight. It started by Jack Lime trying to pick a fight with Ron Burgundy. The BBC shows up and wants to get involved. And then MTV shows up. MTV, as James just said, was not broadcast until 1981, so they cannot be a part of this fight. And then we get E! News joining the fight with Tina Fey and
Amy
Poehler.
Yeah.
Yes. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. E! News also could not have been in this fight. They didn't come till later. Are you gonna Google it? I already Googled it. Do it. Fact check me. I already looked. So Jim Carrey is the leader of the Canadian news team, which I don't have a problem with them being there. They're allowed. He's there because he's Canadian. It's also like now the portion of the movie where it's like who's who in the comedic actors of the time. Let's just like you got Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Jim Carrey, all these people. ESPN, they can stay. They joined the fight. They were around in 1979, in case you were wondering, because people are apparently going to wonder. The History Network joins the fight. Nope, not allowed. They were 1991. They're not even fucking close. Also, this fight is going on and on and on while this kid is accompanying it with his piano song. What do you call it? It's not a song.
Recital?
No, his
concert piece?
Composition? Is that what it's called? I don't know.
Okay.
The piano song that he wrote for his dad is underlying this whole fight. It's a long ass fucking song. And typically music recitals are like multiple kids going. Kid wrote like a fucking opera. It's so long. I'm pretty sure Ron doesn't make it because there's no way he can make it to the end of this kid's song with how long it takes. Unless this kid's like the next Beethoven. But Tina's character is into Ron Burgundy, which if one more person says they have the hots for Ron Burgundy, I'm going to end my life. There's fighting. I will say the real talent in the Burgundy family is that kid on the piano, though, because he can play. Is a really... Forget his mom being a famous news anchor and his dad. He should just play the piano. Stonewall. The ghost of Stonewall's in the fight, and he can absorb people's souls, apparently. That's a thing that happens.
Oh, but God forbid MTV appear a year early.
Hey, listen, I said this earlier, but you weren't here, and I talked about it before. I just want my fake universe shit to at least be consistent. That's all I'm asking for. You established the rules of this universe. You made this universe. I just don't want you to follow your damn rules.
What rules?
The rules that have been set up about the universe.
Which include... Did you write the fucking bylaws?
No, the movie did.
What?
You weren't here when I first made the note, but I'm just... Stonewall Jackson can absorb people's souls, but MTV can't be in the fight because it wasn't around yet.
That's your fault. It's a joke. It's not your fault. What about the Minotaur?
I don't care about the Minotaur. Um, I do care that it's kind of bullshit that ESPN gets a fucking jet.
Called in an A10 Warthog, which
Yep.
did not have the audio for an A10 Warthog.
And then everyone survives the explosion of gasoline that was triggered when
West
ja-
Mantooth.
Jack Lime gets cornered by the San Diego news teams and Brick lights all the gasoline on fire and everybody explodes and should be dead, but somehow Ron Burgundy and his news team will make it to their kid's recital before the song's over. Then they go have a wedding for Brick. Again, it could have ended at the kid's recital. Great. End of movie. Wrap. Nope. They go to a wedding for Brick and Chani. And the shark, I didn't talk about the shark because I didn't really care about the shark. The shark that Ron nursed back to health when he was blind comes back to the beach and then tries to eat Ron Burgundy.
That's what sharks do.
And yeah, okay.
Baxter saves him.
And then the dog bites the shark because why not?
The dog also talks to bears.
And then there's an after credit scene because, you know, it wasn't long enough. Also, what the fuck is the after credit scene?
I don't even remember it. I watched the movie in the theaters. I may have left during the credits. What is the after credit scene? There's no description on Wikipedia, so you're gonna need to remember it.
It was like a week ago, my guy. I blocked out.
Did you not write any notes on it?
I wrote, and an after credit scene, ... because it wasn't long enough, ... Also, WTF, !
I guess we'll never know.
I guess you're gonna have to go watch the movie yourself.
Don't. Why would you?
Because you want to form your own opinions about things. And not just...
Alright, I suppose so, sure.
So, yeah. What did you think about the movie, James?
When I first went and saw it, I had not seen the original Anchorman yet. And so going and watching it, I think it came out in 2013, and I'd seen the trailer for it. I graduated high school in 2013, so I was really like starting to grow up, but not quite. And the trailer just seemed mad funny to me. Mostly due to what I now understand about myself is that I really like improv comedy and I really like sketch comedy. And this movie is basically, to me, an improv comedy, uh, an improv slash sketch comedy show where all the actors play the same characters through the whole show. So, like, yeah, it's it's disjointed, which is a deviation from the first film, and it's worse in most ways than the first movie. I remember watching this movie in the theaters and then going home, finding a way to stream the first movie, and I watched the first movie and I thought the first one was way better. But like it's not good in a lot of ways, but it's also, I think, misdiagnosed as being too bad. Like in most art, we'll call this art for now. In most art, there's stuff that will go over people's head, and or people read into it way too much. That is what tends to happen with literary stuff, poetry, that sort of thing. People read way too far into it. So in this movie, I feel like there's not much to read too far into. But Adam McKay, the writer, has gone on to write some really profoundly good movies. He wrote The Big Short, which is a Steve Carell classic. Um, he wrote a recent hit called Don't Look Up, which is a horrifying look at what would happen if billionaire tech boys started to run news and government. Uh-oh, that's not poignant anymore. He's a very talented writer. We were looking up information on him earlier today. He started the he's a founding member of the Upright Citizens Brigade in Chicago, which is a world famous improv team out in Chicago. Um, he's written sketches and a bunch of stuff for SNL. He's worked with the same gang of guys. I mean, he's done stuff with Will Ferrell for years. He's done stuff with Steve Carell. He's done stuff with Paul Rudd. Like he has his little collection of people and he works with them constantly. And I think people look at Anchorman and Anchorman 2 as like pushing boundaries on jokes. Like you're going too far with these jokes. And I look at it as a mockery of the sort of personalities that were on television when these guys were growing up. So you're looking at like news anchors and celebrities from the 70s where everything was a little grittier, a little shittier. People were worse overall, I would say. I mean, the 70s were what, 50 years ago right now? 1975. So, like, these movies to me are more a satirization of what Adam McKay and Will Ferrell and them saw growing up as like school children. Like they were young kids at the time. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like this movie has plot holes because MTV wasn't around for this space battle type thing where Brick has a gun from the future. And in the last movie where he had a grenade out of nowhere for no reason and it will not be explained. Like that's like straight out of sketch comedy, that's straight out of improv comedy. It's This is sort of like an homage to an art form while also satirizing a much worse time period with much worse individuals in it. And like you're not supposed to like Ron Burgundy. He's not a fucking good guy. None of them are. Brick maybe, but even then, like by association, he's not great. Like no one is the good guy. And it's funny in the first movie when they drag Veronica down to their level and she falls in love with Ron and they play it off like even this guy gets the girl, right? And then in this movie, he gets back with his family once again, but also everyone wants to sleep with him and he's sleazy and smarmy and shitty. Like I don't know. I like these movies. They're not movies that I would be like, "Come, my very young son, let's watch this as a family comedy." No, it's it's a movie for grown-ups and it's raunchy and rude and crude and it's sort of looking at how raunchy, rude, and crude things were in the 70s, but turning it up and up and up and up and up. I don't have problems with it per se. It's no Oscar winner. There's not some overarching message that you need to take away from it to like some morality or something like that. No, it's it's DreamWorks in real life with a good writer and some extraordinarily talented improvisers on the set. Like, I it's also these movies, you love it or you hate it. Like there's hardly an in between there. You want to go like look at their ratings on like you can look at their Rotten Tomatoes ratings, you can look at their IMDb ratings. Like they both sit high middle, like 6 point whatevers. They're not quite to seven. They're definitely not fives. But like a lot of the reviews are less than three. A lot of the reviews are more than eight. So it very much feels like these are movies that people know they aren't supposed to get too into. And so it's sort of just fun to leave your brain and watch some insane garbage for a little while. Um, that is pretty much gonna do it for us here. Hate to cut us off a little short here, but the child woke up once again, and America decided she was going to dip to take care of him in this instance because she set me up to go on a rant. So I will leave you guys with this. There are plenty of good reasons to like this movie. There are plenty of good reasons to think that you probably don't need to watch it and your life will be completely fine if you don't. And that's great. You don't need to watch every movie. It's fine. Um I do like them much more than America does, that's for sure. And I think they're funny and dumb, and it appeals to my preference in terms of comedy. So it was always going to be well liked by me and not by America. That said, I have watched Anchorman 1 two times in my life, and one of those times was for this show. And I have watched Anchorman 2 one time in my life, and it was when it came out in theaters. Rewatchability, hmm, not for me. Maybe for other people, but I got my giggles out of it, and that's all I needed. If you like this show, download all the episodes and keep on enjoying it. We'll be back next time with oh god, she left. She's the one who always knows. We'll have another episode soon of a movie that we'll watch. I don't know what movie, but we'll watch it and you will be there for it. And you will enjoy listening to us bitch about it, I'm sure. Have yourselves a very good night or day. Doesn't matter if you're listening to this recorded. It's whatever time of day it is for you. Have a good time. Fuck, I just let America do outros, man. That shit was bad. That shit was bad. And I'm not gonna edit it. I don't give a shit. Okay. Oh, this poor baby. Well, she's walking him around. That's rough. I don't remember what's next for you guys. I don't remember. I know it was like preordained. So we did bring it on. And we're doing Anchorman. We did a TV episode in between, and there's like a third movie that we're gonna watch. I can't remember what it is. I don't know. We will hopefully be recording that within the next 2 weeks, but there will be a weekend where we are out of town. So I don't know when we'll get to it, but we'll get to it. I pinky promise you. Uh, in the meantime, you all have just the most wonderful night. Um, have a good week. Monday starting tomorrow. Tell you what, we're in the slog just in the country. So, nose to the grindstone, try and make something of nothing. Uh, fucking. Yeah, we'll rub his nose. I've done it before with him, but he sometimes he takes to it, sometimes he doesn't take to it. It's tricksy. I think American tried to give him a bottle again, and I think he rejected it. So I don't know what his deal is. He slept for 30 minutes and then woke up pissed off again. Tonight's really out of whack. He hasn't done this in months. He's honestly, I stopped the episode too soon, probably, and then I saved the file and closed the program. But if I needed to, I could. If I needed to, I could go in and fucking re-chop it up. But we'll see. He's still crying. Um, yeah, no, he's not struggled to go to sleep this hard. It's what is it, 10? Yeah, it's 10:20. He slept 40 minutes since 8 p.m. It could be daylight savings. That could be part of the problem, but he's really fighting it. Normally, now I'll tell you this, the normal bedtime routine with him is 8 p.m. we start bedtime. So like we'll get him his PJs, we'll get him a bottle, read him a story, all that shit, right? He's usually knocks himself out on the bottle. Um and so he's like cooked by I don't know, let's say 8:15, 8:20. And if you're really good, you can get him burped and laid back down without waking him all the way up, and he'll shimmy around and then he'll fall all the way deep into sleep. Um, but tonight he is just not fucking having it. He is pissed about something. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Tragically, the one item we don't have is a rocking chair. We also have a small house, so there's not really a place for a rocking chair, tragically. Um, Certainly not space in his room with all the giant ass furniture we have in there. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. We'll hang out here for another like 5-10 minutes, see if America can get him down and come back in and finish up her thoughts. But ooh, oh, he is definitely starting to teeth. That could be part of it. All right, she's put her head in her hands. Dad to the rescue. Y'all, I'm gonna put on Be Right Back. You can hang out if you want, but I don't know if or when we'll be right back. So be right back. Just kidding, we're calling it. Good night.